G'day, welcome to 4x4 Australia's big ute test. We've got the 8 top selling utes in Australia, and one of them is the first new Hilux in 10 years. Now, to do this right here at the Proving Grounds, we've assembled the best, the most experienced 4x4 testers in Australia. You'll meet them in a minute. Meanwhile, let's go test some utes. In this year's test we have the Isuzu D-Max, the Mazda BT-50, the Mitsubishi Triton, Holden's Colorado, the Toyota Hilux, the VW Amarok, Ford's Ranger, the Nissan Navara. 4x4 Australia's testing incorporates virtually everything you can think of, from a water crossing, a deep creek crossing, a steep hill climb, lots of bump testing, corrugated roads, and then of course we've got on-road testing and long gravel road testing. With the judges hopping from one vehicle to the next, they've got every chance to try every vehicle over every type of terrain. This is really the most comprehensive test you can imagine. There you go, 4x4 Australia, the most experienced testing crew probably on the face of the earth. And look, Ron Moon, absolute outback legend, also editor of 4x4 for what, 15 years, Ron?
15 years at magazine editor, and about 12 years as editor at large. I'm growing old in this job.
Everybody knows Mooney, but one of the things a lot of people probably don't understand is that Ron's expertise was born from 20 years in the army. From what, the age of 15?
Yeah, age of 15, done my auto elect trade.
Yeah.
And then, in the early 70s, I was teaching young diggers to drive 4x4s and 6x6s up in the Victorian High Country, up around Corryong and Beechworth. And there's some steep mountains up there, mate. I tell you what, the learning curve was pretty steep.
Well, this is Fraser Strong. Fraser is the road test editor on 4x4 Australia. Now, I've known this guy half my life. When I met him, he was the #1 motorcycle tester in Australia. So we are talking, without a doubt, someone who understands technical from every possible aspect. Well, you know who this guy is. This is Matt Rodonicus. He's the editor of 4x4. I first met Matt 25 years ago when he was editing performance magazines. And Matt, you've just got such a pure mechanical background, haven't you? How did you get your start?
Yeah, I did my time as a motor mechanic and used to read every hot rod magazine I could get my hands on back then, like most apprentice mechanics did.
Yeah.
And started writing some stories on the side. The opportunity came up to get away, get off the tools and start doing magazines full time. Yeah, the spanners are never far away and I get to drive all those fancy new cars at the same time.
Best of everything, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, how do you approach a test like this?
Four-wheel drives have always been, to me, something that I've used for touring.
Yeah.
And I've never been a motoring journalist as such.
No.
It's always been, I want to go there hunting or fishing or diving or canoeing, and a four-wheel drive was the best vehicle for that. And so that's the angle I always come from. The performance we're getting out of diesel engines these days is incredible, but yeah, the thing that I really sort of look back on and look at is, how reliable is that going to be when you're miles away from anywhere. Ford Ranger's been around for a couple of years, and I've got to say this is my favourite ute at the moment. Look at that mammoth engine in the Ford, mate. 3.2 litres.
I don't know how they do it.
But it's a giant killer amongst them all, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah,
3.2 litres. It's a good vehicle to start off with anyway. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next few days.
What happens, Ron? First thoughts on the Colorado, Matt?
It's not everyone's favourite. It's a bit old in this group of cars now. It's showing its age. It's got a mismatch of plastics and colours in here.
Yes.
The engine's a bit noisy, a bit rattly.
Any strong points though?
It's got plenty of go. It's the most powerful ute here on paper. It makes 500 newton metres of power, and it does go quite well. It's got good strong towing capacity. Nice visibility out of it, but yeah, it's just getting a bit dated now. Hard to compete with the newer ones. You're driving back to back like this is when it shows up their strengths and weaknesses.
Too right.
There's a lot of things to consider with these testing. It's
Yes.
off-road, on-road, cabin, pricing, equipment, safety, and especially all these dual cab utes have multiple uses. There's no one clear-cut criteria that decides what's a winner and what's not a winner.
What are your thoughts on the Colorado? How does it fit into this pack?
Look, in this pack, it's certainly up there in terms of performance. It's a strong engine, even though it's a little bit smaller than some. It's 2.8 litres. It's probably not the most refined engine in this lot, and for a fairly new diesel engine, it is a bit on the noisy side.
I've got to say,
Yeah,
even sitting here in the cabin with the windows up, it's rattling,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Look, it has a bit of a feel and sound of an old school diesel.
Yes.
Which for something that's
Not.
as modern as that, you're a bit surprised.
And the fact that it hasn't got a rear diff lock, is that dating it a little bit, do you think? Is that sort of
Look,
indicative of where Holden is on the Colorado?
Look, it's putting it a little bit behind the game.
Yep.
It's only the Colorado, the D-Max and lower spec Trotons that don't have a rear diff lock now.
Okay.
This vehicle, the Volkswagen, you've got to say is pretty good because it's the only one of the whole lot that you can drive down the highway at 100 km an hour.
Yeah.
Slip straight out onto a bush track and not touch a thing. You don't have to go into low ratio, you don't have to do a thing. This is the most refined ute we've got, I reckon.
How's the Volkswagen stacking up in this comparo?
Mate, it's right at the pointy end.
Okay.
Absolutely the pointy end of this field. Of all this lot, it's the technically most sophisticated. We've got an 8-speed automatic, small diesel engine, but with 2 turbos. It's also got full-time four-wheel drive, whereas part-time is standard and all the other things here.
Yep.
And it doesn't have low range. Now you probably think no low range is not going to go anywhere. Well, it actually does, because first gear is quite low on it, having the 8-speed, and because of the way the torque converter works, you get a gearing multiplier effect, so it's actually very capable.
Let's face it, there's nothing to do, is there? How are you going to know you're off-road?
Yeah,
It's not coming in the windows.
You
There's
look
no
out the
floor
windscreen,
flaps.
if you see dirt, you're off-road.
Oh, right,
If you see
mate.
bitumen,
Okay.
you're on-road. That's the rule.
Okay, I'll try and stick to that phrase.
Yeah.
Well, the comparo rolls on, Matt.
Yeah, it's getting interesting at this end of it.
This end of it being the Hilux, the new Hilux. What are your thoughts about now?
It's pretty impressive. A lot more wheel travel than the other cars, which really helps. Made it up that climb pretty easily, almost as easy as the Amarok. The electronics probably weren't as clever as it, so it just used the old school wheel travel and diff lock to get up there.
Yep.
Ground clearance was a lot better. The old Hilux used to bottom out in the front end really easily, very soft in the front. This doesn't bottom out anywhere near as much, and it's got all that underbody protection under there, so that's going to score really well for it.
They would sell a dozen Hiluxes a day for even if the engine wasn't great or the suspension wasn't fantastic.
Yep.
But this is a lot better vehicle than the previous Hilux. I mean, this is a completely different engine,
Yep.
completely different chassis, and it's much more car-like than the old one.
Oh, Matt. Nissan.
Well, for a start, the Nissan is the only car with an opening back window, so that's got to be a winner. None of the others have that, so you can throw your empties out the back as you go along.
Oh, right, straight into the tub.
Yeah, that's just a perfect thing for a pickup truck.
I knew if we looked long enough, we'd find an advantage to having a Nissan.
It's quite revolutionary because it's got coiled springs under the back, which for a 1-ton ute is a new thing. Everything else has got the old leaf springs like a horse cart.
Well, Nissan's got a track record of that, haven't they? They came out with that coil cab when everybody else said you had to have
That's true.
leaf springs up the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. But
Yeah.
Phrase, how's the Navara stacking up from your point of view?
Mate, I like this in a lot of ways. It's
Yep.
it's quite sharply priced for what it is. It's very well equipped. It's certainly got strong performance. The engine's only small capacity, 2.3 litres, but with the bi-turbo arrangement, it's got plenty of power. I mean, in fact, it's right up the pointy end in terms of straight line performance, and with the traction control system it's got and the rear diff lock, it performs really well off-road.
This is basically an all-new car, and
Yep.
it's fairly sophisticated.
Oh, no, you're not going there, are you? Oh, jeez. No
Dear. I mean, this is the thing with these things. I mean, they're so capable. I mean, they've got electronic traction aids and hill descent control.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff you would never thought of seeing in a ute. You know, a few years ago, and there's a couple of all new vehicles here, Navara being one of them. A couple of vehicles that have been around for a few years.
Yeah.
And even in those couple of years, you notice the difference between the technology.
Ford Ranger, Matt. It's been a bit of a favourite with a lot of people, but here we are halfway through. What do you think?
Yeah, the big Ford is a favourite with a lot of people. Our readers love it. It's really on a winner, and this updated model is fantastic. The first thing you notice about it is the light electric steering in it, which works really well. It's so easy to drive in this low speed off-road stuff that we're doing around here.
Is there much around with electric steering?
No, not in the four-wheel drive market, not much at all. It's more something for passenger cars. The factory calibration on the traction control is pretty good, but then you've got a diff lock as well, which helps it along and gets it up most things pretty easily.
Righto, Ron, here we are, about halfway through. We've driven everything.
Yeah.
You're back in the Ranger, and this is the one that right at the start you said you liked the most. Now,
Yeah,
what's the feeling?
Well, it's not quite as clear cut as it was at the start. I mean, the new Hilux is right up there, and the Navara has given it a bit of a run as well. So,
Well, there you go, the big block Ranger. I never thought I'd say the big block at 3.2, but the big block Ranger is not quite at the top. Let's see what happens.
I like the BT-50. It's got that big rig sort of feel like the Ford has, but a bit more refinement, a bit more polished than the Ford. A lot of people don't like the styling so much. It doesn't look so much of a big truck, and it's got that girl with a ponytail pulled back too tight look about its face. But yeah, I like it to drive. It's a great driving car.
BT-50, along with its close cousin the Ranger, are the two biggest utes here. They've got the biggest engine, they've got the biggest GBM, they've got maximum towing capacity. It's a sort of a heavier work vehicle in a lot of ways. This year they've given it a little bit of a facelift. Especially the front end design, which was a little bit controversial.
What about the motor transmission? What have we got here?
Look, this is unusual because it's a 5-cylinder turbo diesel, whereas all the rest we've got here are 4-cylinder turbo diesel. And it's backed by a 6-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. 5-cylinder gives you perfect primary balance. What it has got, low revs is a bit of a rocking couple, so sometimes at idle speed the thing has a little bit of a rocking thing, but as soon as you start to rev it, that all smooths out. In fact, in terms of primary balance, it's better than a 4-cylinder engine.
The Isuzu, Matt, you know it well, but what do you think of it this time around?
Yeah, it is one of those cars you do get to know well because it has been around for a while. It's probably the oldest car in this fleet, but it's a good, honest toiler. No fanfare, just keeps on going, and it's affordable. Good way to get into this style of vehicle.
An honest worker.
Yeah, not many of them left these days.
Mate, the thing about this car is it's very well priced. It's a very reliable, well-proven engine, well-proven gearbox. It's a robust thing. It's probably not the most technically advanced car here, but it's certainly right up there in terms of being tough and robust.
This latest Triton, it's really good to drive on its own, but when you put it against some of these flasher, bigger competitors, it struggles a bit to keep up with them, but its strength is its value for money.
This is a new car early this year, but it was based on the Triton that came out in about 2006. What Mitsubishi did was pull the old one apart, put it all back together again with a whole lot of new parts. There's a new 2.4 litre diesel engine, new 6-speed manual, the automatic, which is a 5-speed, is carried over from previously. This is a bit smaller than the rest, which makes it easier in tight situations. It's got a better turning circle. This car is unique in all this 8 we've got here because it's got what Mitsubishi calls Super Select, which allows you to run on the highway 2-wheel drive or full-time 4-wheel drive. And the general fit and finish is much more car-like. So pretty good effort, and it comes at a good price. I think it's probably underrated actually.
Well, Matt, 3 days of intensive testing here at the Melbourne 4x4 Centre. Come on, mate, I'm hanging out to know, I'm sure everyone else is.
Well, John, we can't really pick it that soon. We've got to go back and crunch the numbers, see what they can carry, how much load we can put in them. We put all that together, work it out for the magazine, and we'll see what comes out of it there.
Righto. Okay, well, like you, I'm going to have to wait. 4x4 Australia, the January issue, What a Christmas present that's going to be.